William "Curly Bill" Brocius briefly emerged onto the Arizona frontier during a span of just over 3 years. Despite this relatively short period, he managed to establish a notorious reputation as an outlaw, leader of a gang of cattle rustlers, drunkard, and a cold-blooded killer. In the early 1880s, Curly Bill embarked on a violent killing spree in the town of Tombstone, Arizona, starting with the town marshal and ultimately claiming the life of Morgan Earp, the brother of Wyatt Earp. This tragic loss deeply affected Wyatt Earp, driving him to seek vengeance against Curly Bill. Upon returning to Tombstone, Earp confidently proclaimed that he had confronted and killed Curly Bill Brocius on March 24, 1882. However, Wyatt Earp had a penchant for weaving elaborate tales, often exaggerating events and even resorting to outright falsehoods to present himself as the heroic protagonist. Doubts lingered among the residents of Tombstone regarding the accuracy of Earp's narrative. Even among present-day historians of the Old West, there remains a divide concerning the true fate of Curly Bill Brocius. Did Wyatt Earp successfully avenge his brother's murder, putting an end to Curly Bill's life? Or did Curly Bill manage to evade capture, perhaps escaping to Mexico to live out his days with a captivating señorita? Arriving in Arizona during the latter part of 1878, William Brocius, whose birth year is thought to be 1845, made his way to the region. Historians speculate that he came from either Missouri or Texas, and his primary purpose was to lead a cattle herd to the San Carlos Reservation. Upon completing his task of delivering the cattle, he found temporary employment as a ranch hand at the San Carlos Reservation. However, this job did not suit him for long. Subsequently, he made his way to Tombstone, Arizona, a mining town renowned for its lawlessness and violent tendencies. For Curly Bill Brocius, who was infamous for his quick temper, fierce rage, and indulgence in hard drinking, Tombstone proved to be an ideal destination. The moniker given to William Brocius required little contemplation. Every account of him highlights his dense, coiled hair. He was also portrayed as towering, robust, and adorned with a freckled countenance. A picture purported to be Brocius, though lacking authentication, is exhibited at the Birdcage Theater Museum in Tombstone, showcasing his curly tresses. Additionally, 2 more photographs have been presented by Curly Bill's descendants, yet they also lack authentication. During that era, Curly Bill's written accounts primarily touched upon Brocius's wavy hair, yet they delved deeper into his character. He had a penchant for alcohol and possessed a peculiar, dark sense of humor. On one occasion during a Sunday morning sermon, he compelled a preacher to move in an amusing manner by shooting at his feet. Likewise, at a community-wide dance, Curly Bill wielded his firearm, exercising control over a group of Mexicans. He coerced them into disrobing and performing before the assembled crowd. Both of these occurrences were documented in newspapers local to the area at the time. Soon after arriving in Tombstone, William Brocius found himself embroiled in a serious incident. The notorious tale goes that one night on October 28, 1880, Curly Bill and his heavily intoxicated companions were recklessly shooting their guns into the night sky within a narrow alleyway. Fred White, the inaugural marshal of Tombstone, promptly arrived at the chaotic scene, aiming to put an end to the unruliness. At the same time, Deputy Sheriff Wyatt Earp happened to be inside a nearby saloon, and the uproar caught his attention. Earp recounted later that he overheard Marshal White demanding Curly Bill to surrender his firearm. Unfortunately, as the weapon changed hands, it unexpectedly discharged, tragically hitting White. Acting swiftly, Earp apprehended Brocius by surprise, engaging in a struggle before successfully arresting Curly Bill and levying a murder charge against him. After Marshal White's shooting, he received medical attention in an attempt to treat his injuries. Initially, his condition showed signs of improvement, allowing him to provide a statement that exonerated Brocius from the accusations. However, despite the initial progress, Marshal White's health took a turn for the worse, and he passed away later that same evening. The community of Tombstone held great admiration and respect for White, leading Wyatt Earp to advocate for Brocius to face trial for the alleged murder in Tucson. During Curly Bill's trial, the judge heard Fred White's recorded testimony. In his statement, the marshal had expressed his belief that the gunshot had been unintentional. Even Wyatt Earp himself testified, concurring that the shooting appeared to be an accident. Consequently, the judge acquitted Brocius of the murder charges, resulting in his release. Although a later disagreement with Wyatt Earp marked an unfriendly relationship, this particular incident did not ignite the well-known feud between them. The Clanton Gang, a notorious group of cattle thieves and stagecoach bandits, had long established their headquarters in Tombstone. Newman "Old Man" Clanton was at the helm of this criminal outfit, with his three sons Billy, Ike, and Finn, alongside the McLaury brothers, Tom and Frank, as well as various other lawless individuals. Notably, Curly Bill Brocius was once associated with the gang, although he played no part in the infamous OK Corral shootout in October 1881. A few months prior to the fateful gunfight, in July 1881, Curly Bill Brocius and another gang member, Johnny Ringo, sought revenge and successfully hunted down and killed Isaac and William Hazlitt in New Mexico. The Hazlitt brothers had previously slain two Clanton members during a failed robbery of a general store. In the run-up to the shootout at the OK Corral, Curly Bill and his gang were on a murderous spree. Only weeks earlier, they perpetrated a brutal ambush at San Luis Pass. During this violent incident, Brocius led an attack on a group of Mexicans, resulting in the death of 6, while the remaining 8 were subjected to torture and murder. Following the death of Old Man Clanton and yet another bloody episode shortly after the San Luis Pass attack, Curly Bill assumed leadership of the infamous Clanton Gang. Despite not being directly involved in the OK Corral shootout, Curly Bill Brocius found his gang implicated in the event. This naturally enraged him as he mourned the loss of his fellow outlaws at the hands of the Earp brothers. In early January 1882, Curly Bill committed a robbery, targeting 2 stagecoaches departing from Tombstone. In response, Wyatt Earp gathered a posse and embarked on a mission to apprehend the members of the Clanton Gang. The tensions between the Clanton Gang and the Earp brothers reached a boiling point, leaving the lawmen feeling constantly threatened. A significant incident occurred on December 28, 1881, at around 11:30 in the evening, when shots were fired as Virgil Earp was returning to his room in a Tombstone boarding house after a night at a local saloon. Virgil Earp faced an ambush by 3 gunmen, concealed within an incomplete structure on the opposite side of the street. The assailants fired shots at him, hitting him in the back and left arm. Despite the severity of his injuries, Virgil managed to make his way to a hotel and miraculously survived. Nevertheless, the injuries to his arm proved to be permanent, rendering it disabled. In a separate incident that occurred on the evening of March 18, 1882, Morgan Earp was engaged in a game of billiards at a local Tombstone billiard parlor. During that time, attackers, purportedly associated with the Clanton Gang, opened fire through the parlor's window. Fortunately, Wyatt Earp narrowly escaped being hit, but tragically, his brother Morgan suffered a gunshot wound to his spine and succumbed to it shortly after. While it should be noted that no concrete evidence linked Curly Bill to either the assassination attempt on Virgil Earp or the death of Morgan Earp, it was widely believed that the Clanton Gang bore responsibility for these assaults. These 2 distressing incidents ultimately set in motion the Earp Vendetta Ride. In pursuit of the Clanton Gang, Wyatt Earp assembled a group of lawmen with the intention of bringing the outlaws to justice. However, Earp had grown frustrated with corrupt judges releasing these criminals, so he secretly harbored the desire for vigilante justice. As fate would have it, on March 24th, Earp's posse unexpectedly encountered Curly Bill and the Clanton Gang at a watering hole in the Whetstone Mountains. The tension was palpable, as both parties found themselves facing each other. In the ensuing confrontation, guns were drawn, and according to Earp's account, Curly Bill allegedly fired the first shot, narrowly missing Earp and leaving a hole in his coat. Reacting swiftly, Earp responded with 2 well-aimed blasts from his shotgun, striking Curly Bill and causing a fatal injury. However, it is worth noting that doubts have been cast on the authenticity of Earp's narrative. The lack of witnesses to support his version and the fleeing of Earp's posse during the shootout raised suspicions. Historians have long questioned the accuracy of Earp's tale, as he had a tendency to embellish details to present himself as a more heroic figure. Interestingly, the location where Curly Bill's body was discovered did not align with Earp's account. He suggested that the outlaws had returned to the watering hole after the incident to retrieve Curly Bill's body and later buried him discreetly along Babakamori Creek. In summary, while Wyatt Earp and his posse set out to apprehend the Clanton Gang, the circumstances surrounding Curly Bill's death remained shrouded in uncertainty, leaving room for skepticism about Earp's version of events. On that particular day, the other members of the Clanton Gang who were present seemed to dispute Earp's account. According to Curly Bill's companions, the encounter with Wyatt Earp was merely a fabrication. They maintained that Curly Bill had grown weary of the outlaw lifestyle and desired to break away from the vendetta against Earp. They asserted that Brocius decided to leave Arizona in search of a tranquil and anonymous existence. Some suggested that Curly Bill relocated to Mexico, where he supposedly married a Mexican señorita. Others in the gang proposed alternative stories, asserting that Brocius had ventured to Texas, Colorado, or Missouri, depending on whom you ask, living out his remaining days under an assumed identity. Even the two rival newspapers in Tombstone engaged in the ongoing debate. The Tombstone epitaph confidently presented Earp's version of Curly Bill's demise as undeniable truth. On the contrary, the Nugget reported that Brocius was miles away from the watering hole on the date Earp claimed to have shot him. In a bold move, the Nugget's editors even offered a substantial $1,000 reward for anyone who could deliver Brocius's body to their newspaper office. Not to be outdone, the epitaph raised the stakes by offering $2,000 if someone could bring Curly Bill in alive. However, no one came forward to claim either reward. So did Curly Bill Brocius truly meet his end at the hands of Wyatt Earp? We may never definitively know the answer to that enigmatic question. Nonetheless, the uncertainty surrounding his fate adds an extra layer of intrigue and fascination to the legend of the American West outlaw, Curly Bill Brocius.